It is the worst offense I have seen in my life for a White Sox team to start the season, and they are off to their worst start in 124 years. They are 2-13. That's where things are at right now.
Chuck Garfien joining us right now, White Sox anchor, reporter, podcaster, doesn't know what he just jumped himself into. And would you like to officially introduce Chuck's name that you call him?
Garfinkel.
Garfinkel in the house.
Are we allowed to say our Chuck Garfinkel, or do we have to say
the
worst team in baseball?
Do
we say the worst team in baseball, Chuck? Do we say the worst team in baseball, Chuck?
I don't know how I follow an anal injury conversation, but I'm here for it.
I mean, if there was ever somebody that could do
it. Right. The White Sox season so far feels like that. Wait, I'm going to do one positive to start, though, because this is news. Okay, Chuck? Tommy Pham signs a contract. Some people are like, why is it a minor league contract? You can probably help explain. But if it was not, if it was a major league contract, then you're up for waivers and all that crap. So he's going to be up soon. But what do you know about that?
I mean, it's probably going to happen. Sounds like it's going to happen. And listen, the White Sox were dealt a bunch of injuries. Injuries are going to happen, but they lost their 2, 3, 4 hitters in Robert, Moncada, and Jimenez within a 9-day span. A 9-day span. And, you do that for most teams. Okay, that's a big blow to your offense. You need other guys to pick up the slack. And unfortunately, that really hasn't happened with this White Sox team offensively other than Gavin Sheets. They don't have any bangers in AAA who are ready to come up. They tried Oscar Colas for like a day, then brought him down. That was kind of questionable. So Robbie Grossman, they signed him during spring training. He's here. Tommy Pham. So a lot of veteran guys to play right field, maybe some left field, and try to fix this offense that has been, it is the worst offense I have seen in my life for a White Sox team to start the season. And they are off to their worst start in 124 years. They are 2-13. That's where things are at right now.
Well, let's bring some positivity to it, because the head of player development is now the general manager of this team. And yet there's no player development players to come up. Are there some that are just too young that he developed in his 7 to 8 years that he was director of player development? Or is there just I need like a vision through the trees, because I'm not seeing anything but this big fat tree in front of me that's the worst start in 102 years.
Yeah, so I would say that right now this is kind of like the bridge year where you're basically putting Band-Aids on as many things as possible. And that's what they technically, from where I sit, what is happening. But what you're saying is a whole other conversation. And, we're trying to, even someone in my seat is trying to figure out, okay, so, if you are the head of player development for a minor league system and you don't really choose the players necessarily, okay, so you are responsible for what you're given. And so there is some, if you want to call it blame or whatever it might be, there is a reason to be like, well, what did Chris Getz do with all the players that he was given? There's also coaching involved. It's the players themselves. And, so I don't think he was in the draft room saying, I want this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. If he had those choices, maybe he would have chose different players. So you can look at the results, and the results are not there in this White Sox minor league system, at least for the moment. They've made some really good trades, I think, since the trade deadline that started with Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, except for the Jake Berger trade. I'll take that to my grave. That's like one of the worst trades in the history of the team. Unless Jake Eater can really be something. I'm hoping for you, Jake Eater. But, I think that this is, we'll see. The minor league system has gotten better because of the trades. But in terms of development and bringing guys up here that were drafted by the team, went through the minor league system, it's a small number of successes. Chris Getz was overseeing the minor league system over this time, where, why they weren't able to do it. That's a much deeper conversation, and I don't have all the answers to that one.
All right, Chuck. So here's the deal. You say he didn't pick the players, but no minor league coordinator picks the players, and every other team has developed guys. So that excuse might fly for White Sox fans, but
they haven't developed anybody. I mean, Colson Montgomery's supposed to be coming, right? He finally hit a AAA home run the other night, and it was like this Red Sea parted again, right? Because he has struggled in AAA so far, right? Noah Schultz is supposed to be coming, right? I mean, I haven't heard much about him. They got Nostrani pitching tonight, right? He's supposed to be their other big prospect guy. But the other thing is, like, I like Andrew Vaughn, but he hasn't happened to a point where you're like, oh wow, he's a third overall pick. He's been okay, but this year has been a struggle, which I get it's early. But it's just like you look at the names and you're like, man, and this wasn't even going to be my question, but now that you brought it up, it's like, okay, I get it, and I no longer work for the White Sox because of this exact conversation we're having. But the facts are the facts. Like every other, my whole point has been, listen, I like Chris Getz. I played with Chris Getz, whatever. But if every other team finds a 20th round pick that's like, oh man, we developed this guy. You can blame coaches, you can blame draft, but everybody, once you get past about the 10th round, everybody's like, oh, we'll take him, he'll sign, it's not like you're like, oh man, in the 13th round, we're going to steal a first rounder. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I'm kind of fed up with the Rick and Kenny excuse. I'm kind of fed up with the, oh, we didn't draft right excuse, because they've switched scouting directors in the middle of that. Let's not forget, it's not the same guy doing all the drafting, right? They've switched everything, and the results are only worse. And listen, they should have just come out and said, hey, we're going to suck this year. And everyone would have been like, okay. But they're like, no, we're going to try and compete instead. They're like, no, we're going to be good. You're awful.
I think there was a question in there. I'm not sure.
No, it's just me being like, it's just like I watch Ozzy on TV every night and he says his things, and you and Ozzy have to, what is it? Put lipstick on a pig, whatever the saying is, right? To try to make it pretty. But man, I almost feel sorry for you guys some nights, because damn, what are you going to say at this point?
Yeah, our job is to wear it. The games have been pretty bad. I mean, listen, I don't think now the White Sox have come out officially and said, yeah, we are going to suck this year. They haven't even used the rebuild phrase or term. But, for those of us who cover the team, I'll just speak for myself. I mean, I said that best case scenario, I think this team can win. Best case, if everything goes right, which never happens, I said they'd win 80 games. But I said, realistically, I think this team can win. I said, if everything goes right.
Everything. Like Luis Robert becomes Otani and can pitch.
If the clubbies are good, everything needs to go right.
Yeah, everything. Realistically, I think this team can win 70, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they won 60. So, that's what I think a lot of White Sox fans are kind of going into, that this team will not be good. But, you can be surprised. But the last thing this team needed was, okay, you play 3 games to start the season against the Tigers, you lose 3 one-run games. Then you have 3 guys get hurt. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, all these things have happened. It's like a worst-case scenario beginning. And on top of all of that, you've got Andrew Vaughn, Andrew Benintendi, all these guys who are hitting under 200. Under 200. No one would have predicted that. And if they were hitting, say, 220 for the season, which still isn't great, you're probably winning a few more games. Your record is still not good, but it's not the worst in the history of the franchise after 15 games. So when you start a season like this, everything's magnified, and we start having these conversations about how bad this team can be. Will they lose 120 games because you have nothing else to go on?
Yeah, gang, I want to ask this, and I won't be so negative, but it's more so about the vision of the White Sox, and I see them add a guy like Tommy Pham, like you spoke about, Robbie Grossman. And I'm just curious on, I believe those are type of guys, when you talk about Tommy Pham, you ask questions about Tommy Pham. I think it's as much as one thing to say the lineup, but one thing to try to develop a mentality, a identity. And Tommy Pham is a guy that I don't care who he plays for, he's not going to take too kindly to winning. He's going to come in there, and I think he's going to set a precedent, attitude where it's like, hey, whether we lose or not, we need to go out and compete. We need to play for each other. Do you think bringing Robbie Grossman and Tommy Pham in is a part of maybe trying to develop a mindset? Because these guys are considered winners, I think, if you ask their peers. But also, too, let's be honest, there are probably going to be some trade pieces come, the trade deadline, to try to bring back some prospects when you look at it. But is there any type of outlook on, hey, let's bring some guys in that have a business-like mentality, that don't like to lose, and maybe that can rub off on some guys? Because when you talk about injuries here and there, I'll never want to say anybody's faking, but I think there is a thing where you learn how to play through injury, where you learn how to play through being banged up and hurt. And I think you add a guy like Robbie Grossman, guys like Tommy Pham, who might say, hey, how about a little bit more toughness and tenacity when you talk about a mindset? Do you have anything from that aspect?
I can go on a half hour on this conversation. So Tommy Pham and Rex. I keep calling Robbie Grossman Rex Grossman because
I love it.
Oh, it's very
Me too.
Chicago.
That's
like
fine.
it.
That's fine for me. I love it.
I do it
I love
too.
it.
That's my second
Ex-Gator
time
great.
I've done it. So Robbie Grossman and Tommy Pham played in the World Series last year. Okay. And the things that I saw Chris Getz trying to do with this team, this major league team this year, the two biggest things were fix the defense, which was awful last year, and it's not great to start this year, and fix the clubhouse. Now, when I started talking during spring training about fixing the clubhouse, there was a loud section of White Sox fans who hated this idea. Who cares about the clubhouse? Give me a great team, guys who mash, plate discipline. Like, I want all that too. But as you guys know, I'm sure at least I'll speak for, I think, at least AJ, the clubhouse last year was a mess. It was a mess. And things got really fractured in there. And they needed to fix the clubhouse. The kind of guys they can bring in, like hired guns, to try and fix the clubhouse are a Robbie Grossman, a Tommy Pham, a Kevin Pillar, a Martin Maldonado, people like that. It's not going to mean this team's winning the division or even having a winning record, but they had to at least address that because it was completely in disarray. So, AJ, I'd like to know your thoughts on this. Do you like the idea of fixing a clubhouse that was fractured last year, and you may not win, but at least set the tone and have a team play the right way, even though it hasn't played on the field? They're 2-13. But what do you think about that? And I guess I'd like to know your guys' thoughts, because
Chuck, here's my question.
There's a lot of people who think I'm crazy.
Chuck, here's my thing. Here's my thing with what you're saying. I understand that, like, you want to fix the clubhouse, but you also have to bring in guys that are, they had Moustakas in spring training, they had Chavez, they had Pilar, they had all these guys. They got rid of them right at the end of spring training. You're like, wait, we're trying to fix the clubhouse. Why are we getting rid of the guys you wanted to fix the clubhouse? I mean, I know they brought in DeYoung, they brought in Maldonado, right? But Martin Maldonado is great when you have great pitching, right? I mean, we know he's not going to hit. He's great when you have great pitching, okay?
Or you know what? If you have young pitching, I'd want to have Maldonado back there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But Maldonado is not off to the greatest start to the season defensively, as I see it.
But also, if you ask anybody last year in Houston, he wasn't great last year defensively either. Yeah, I mean, I know Dusty was swore he was the pitcher whisperer, but I mean, you had Verlander, Fromberg, Christian Javier, Urquidy, Garcia. I mean, that's pretty good fivesome to run out there, right? Now and again, I don't know. I mean, I think, yeah, you can fix the clubhouse, but you also need to bring in guys that can contribute. And I know they lost Eloy. I know they lost Louis Robert. I know they lost Yohan Moncada. But as a White Sox fan, Chuck, can you really count on those guys to play 150 games?
No, the X factors for me for this entire season offensively were Moncada and Jimenez. That's where things were at. And so the fact that it's a week into the year and both of them went down, not good at all. So they've been relying on and hoping and praying that Jimenez and Moncada would reach their potential at least in one of these seasons. I mean, Moncada has shown flashes at times. Jimenez hasn't stayed on the field since, I think, 2019. So, and he stayed on the field last year, but he wasn't the guy that we expect. So that's why a 60-70 win season seemed in the cards for this team this year.
Well, if they need me to come in and be Udonis Haslem and play on Sundays once a week, I'll get the culture right.
I'm calling the White Sox right now.
I can be Udonis Haslem. I still can get you 30 bags right now, if AJ's behind the plate.
Okay, I like that. I like that smoke. Is there any chance that A, somebody's going to apologize to Tony La Russa, or B, Pedro Grifol does not make it through this season?
Okay, you're saying apologize to Tony because
he got a lot of flack for what was going on with this team, and
the man fell asleep. Kratzy fell asleep in the game.
I'm just saying the team did better when Tony was there. As hard as that to say, do we need to apologize to Tony La Russa?
You know who I'd apologize to? I'd apologize to Rick Renteria, who had this team
before that.
Pretty good, and he lost his job. But you're right about Tony La Russa. They won 93 games, and I had to be reminded, right? I saw it for myself, and I was surprised. They won 93 games in 2021, and Luis Robert, I believe, played 68 games in the regular season, and Eloy Jimenez played 55. So they had a lot of support on that team. The bench did a great job picking up the slack. Guys from AAA, from the farm system, like Danny Mendick and Gavin Sheets, helped that 2021 team. And then if you're Pedro Grifol, I mean, you lost 101 games last year. This is not looking good. So things have got to turn around this year. You've got to see the results on the field, and he wants this team to be playing fearless and be aggressive and be selfless and be technically sound, as he put it. So far, we're not seeing much of that.
Chuck, when are they going to stop pressing? That was my favorite thing I saw this weekend. You're 2-13. What are you pressing for? I saw that article and I was like, we're going to stop pressing. I'm like, what? Wait, you're what? But anyways, did you see? I'm sure you saw it. The Joe Cali thing that he wrote about Pedro Grifol. Is there any truth to that? I mean, I know they came out and denied it, but they have to deny it. But is there any truth to that story that they were talking about firing Pedro last year and Jerry stepped in and said no because of dead money?
What I was told is that report by Joe Cali. What I was told was that report is untrue. That's all I can say. That they would, that Jerry Reinsdorf has not, had that edict with Pedro Grifol. So that's all I can say. But what was the first thing you were saying? Because I wanted to respond to that. Oh, the pressing.
The pressing.
So, yeah, I mean, you never pressed. You never pressed when you look up at you're making good money and you're batting 130 in April and your team stinks. You didn't press offensively?
Well, of course I did, but I also was never on a team that was 2-13, so I didn't really know that was.
So you're
possible.
Saying forget? Listen,
here's the thing: if I'm
because I'm 2-13.
No, but here's the thing: if I'm in the White Sox clubhouse, and I'm clearly not, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, maybe if you want to have a meeting, fine, but let's have a meeting of let's get back and figure out what we do well. It seems like they don't know what they do well. They're like, oh, we're going to fix the defense. They make 3 errors, it seems like every night, right? Oh, we're going to run the bases well. They don't run the bases very well. Oh, we're gonna be like a small ball team. They don't bunt, right? They don't hit the ball out of the park. So you got to figure out what you are. And I don't know what they are. So for them to be like, we're pressing, what are you pressing for? Maybe we should press different buttons.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I can't speak for any of these guys because I haven't, I'm not in the clubhouse on a daily basis. I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but if Pedro Grifol is saying they're pressing, I can just go on that. But in terms of an identity, this team hasn't really had one for a bit. And it seemed like they were starting to at least attempt to develop one with playing smart, playing good defense, and bringing a big team attitude to the field every day. Those were words and seemingly some actions in spring training, but during spring training, they had the worst record in baseball in the spring training, which doesn't always, as you know, translate to what's going to happen in the regular season. But in this case, it has. We thought they'd have better plate discipline. They were last in the majors in walks last year. They were middle of the pack during spring training. 2 weeks into the season, they're doing a little bit better, mainly because they signed Robbie Grossman. He's got 7 walks in a week. So, I think my guess is once they lost Robert, Moncada, and Jimenez in a week, that was just such a shock to the system of this offense on top of the bad start that they had that I think that is where the pressing's coming in. We're just you got Kevin Pillar batting cleanup, Gavin Sheets batting third. Who expected this to happen 2 weeks ago? And here they are.
All right, so you realize, like, you're mentioning all these things. Their AAA team is also god awful. Let's not forget they're the worst team in AAA by like leaps and bounds. So I mean, what give me some hope as a White Sox. I need hope, Chuck.
Okay, I'll give you hope.
You are the Chuck. You are the Chuck that is supposed to give me hope. So you and or Ozzy, I need hope going forward that I need to tune in and watch the White Sox because no one's going to the ballpark. I mean, I've seen pictures. There's like nobody there. So like the tickets are like $3, Chuck. So tell me why I should spend my $4 and go to a game and watch this team.
Well, part of my job, besides watching the White Sox, is watching the Charlotte Knights and watching the Birmingham Barons and Winston-Salem Dash. And it was really nice when the White Sox were good for a few seasons. I didn't really have to spend too much time looking at the minor leagues because I was really liking what I was seeing in the major leagues.
Right. So
they did have a great few days in the minor leagues. So Colson Montgomery has hit 2 home runs in back-to-back days in AAA. I mean, he wasn't even playing that much in spring training. And the way Ozzy put it is like Ozzy felt like the first 2 weeks of AAA ball for Colson was essentially still part of his spring training. The pitchers that they have gotten back in these trades look really good. Drew Thorpe from the Padres, Jairo Iriarte from the Padres, Noah Schultz, who is their number 2 prospect. He had a game. He actually gave up 4 runs in 1 inning for the Winston-Salem Dash. And once he gave up those 4 runs, he's like, all right, I'm going to fix this. He struck out 6 batters in a row. Edgar Caro, who they got in the Lucas Giolito trade, has had 3 home runs over the weekend. So there are some good things happening in the minor leagues. So you can hang your head on that. Gavin Sheets has been good. Garrett Crochet has been phenomenal. Michael Kopech's been great out of the bullpen. There are Jordan Leisure, who they got in the Joe Kelly, Lance Lynn trade. He has not given up a run yet. And Nick Nastrini, who they also got in that trade, is making his major league debut today, starting against the Royals. So there are slivers of good, but when you're 2-13, you got to look for some of those slivers because it's been rough, to say the least, through 15 games.
All right, Chuck. Well, besides that, everything's great. So this was really productive. We just wanted to air it out. And hey, the White Sox did sign Tommy Pham, so at least maybe he can bring them a little bit of offense. No, actually, I guess I shouldn't say that. Reportedly are close to signing Tommy Pham. I'm hoping that happens so that there's something interesting to watch with this team, and it gives them a little bit of trade deadline juice too. And also, I was just pissed because Pham had a good year last year. You just want to see someone like that.
It's called collusion. Collusion is a real thing.
Say it, Cam. Say it with your chest.
Don't get me. That's another conversation we can have. I know all about that.
Well, we'll let Chuck jump. Chuck, thank you very much. Great to have you on, man. We'll watch you on pre and post.
Wait, are you on? Wait, do they have a game today? That's how
they do.
Who do they play?
The Royals.
Oh boy. Well, then that'll make Getz happy, and the rest of them because they're all Royals.
Royals versus Royals.
They can all go say hello to each other. That's okay, Chuck. You can laugh.
I am. I'm laughing.
I don't laugh. I actually cry every night when I turn it on.
Yeah,
my family would be like, "How'd the White Sox do?" And then I laugh because I'm like, "Do you even have to ask that question?"
Yeah. Well, listen, the Royals swept the White Sox in 4 games in Kansas City. Let's see how they respond here this week. You know, it's. The Royals are impressive. They lost 106 games last year. 106, and look what they're doing this year.
Yeah, but you know what they did, Chuck? They spent some money and brought in. Yeah. Not only did they fix the clubhouse, they fixed the rotation, they fixed their position players, they fixed the bullpen. You know how they did it? Money, 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 money.
That's right.
Money rules the world around me.
Yeah.
All right, Chuck learned a lot here. Chuck, great to have you on as always. We appreciate you, man. Hope you enjoyed it. These guys are on one today.
Always enjoy it with you guys.
Thanks, Garfinkel. I'll see you sometime.
Hey,
everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.